There's been a lot of talk surrounding Project 2025 this election season.
Yeah, the plan is a controversial set of proposals for the next Republican presidency written up by the Heritage Foundation. Now, one group fears how black voters could be affected if Project 2025 is implemented. And joining us now is Color of Change President Rashad Robinson. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks for having me.
So let's talk about this. Former President Trump has disavowed and really distanced himself from Project 2025. So why does it even matter?
Well, so much about policy is personnel. And so both Project 2025 and Donald Trump have been very clear that part of their agenda on both platforms is that they will dismantle the sort of career service infrastructure of the federal government, the people who work regardless of whether there's a Democrat or a Republican. And Project 2025 and Donald Trump both want to replace them with political appointees. So where do the political appointees come from under a Donald Trump administration? They come from the Heritage Foundation. They come from the Federalist Society. They come from the very people that have written this plan and have put it in place. Donald Trump, as president, will be one person, but he will be staffed by a range of people who have made this their mission. And we know from the last time when Donald Trump said some things that he wouldn't do and then went about doing them, that what we actually have to believe is the intention behind it. This project is funded and supported by all the very people that are fighting to put Donald Trump in office. And if he is elected, Project 2025 will be the operating framework. And so I tell our folks at Color of Change, I tell our folks that we work with, I tell Black Americans that our Project 2024 needs to be voting.
And in terms of Project 2025, what are the key provisions that Color of Change is most concerned about?
Well, a couple of things. One, across education, health, justice, they're going to dismantle.
Education, health, justice. He's worried about that being dismantled. The three things that hurt black people the most. That doesn't sound like a negative thing for black people to me. If we can get those things dismantled and the people who are in the federal government and they're not elected, they're just in there forever and they're racist and they enforce the policies that are anti-black, I don't see how any of that stuff could be harmful. Trying to sell you on fear. Nobody's ever said anything out of that 2025. And people say, well, you haven't read it yet. You're damn right. And I ain't gonna read it because it's like 900 pages of bullshit. If Donald Trump wins, that means the majority of the country elected him. And if the majority of the country elects him, understanding that Project 2025, it's part of Kamala Harris's campaign. And all I can tell you is Kamala better hope that 2025 is half as bad as she's saying it is, because if she loses this election and she's only campaigned on fear, I don't know what the Democrats are going to do in 2028.
The very infrastructure that enforces anti-discrimination are rules. And so whether it's the Department of Education, the Department of Health and Human Services, the Department of Justice, dismantling
all of the things that harm us the most, all of the departments that have harmed us as black people the most. He does not want them dismantled. Leave them alone. Leave them just the way they are. Can't believe that? That's what we got to deal with. And where do they find people in foundations like he has? He's probably just some kind of a damn non-profit, and he might be related to somebody. I don't know nobody his height, though, up there on Capitol Hill, but why would you be afraid of them dismantling something that's only harmed you? Well, they may not replace it at all. But we are citizens in this country, and provisions are going to be made for us. Hopefully, we're going to stand up and push it so it'll be the provisions we want and not something that someone else gets to decide for us. We got to speak up for ourselves or we can't complain. Isn't that what it seems like? All the stuff that he's whining and crying about is horrible. There ain't no good shit in none of that stuff. Department of Education, the medical, health, anything tied to anything that we suck in. It could even be employment. You can throw that in there. And all these institutions that he sounds like he's ready to go to war over are harmful or have been harmful to us, have not been helpful. And he wants to make sure they don't go away. Well, good luck, little buddy.
Getting rid of school lunches, getting rid of student debt.
So that's what I'm saying. All they want is a bunch of welfare Democratic programs. The only way they can keep us in their party is to keep us poor, because they're bringing in a bunch of illegal immigrants, and we're going to have to go all the way through the poor part with them until we get to that part we can go no further, and then they go on without us into the middle class, and the majority of us are stuck for some reason. Isn't that a coincidence that we just are expected to be in lines for free lunches? But that's a good thing? No, it isn't. We shouldn't need free lunches. After as long as we've been supposedly free people, why are we still in line with immigrants for free lunches? Food stamps, welfare. And I am not saying that we're the biggest recipient of these services, because we are not. But I'm just saying, why are we in there at all? Why are we in there at all? You know, if you're a white person and you've fallen on hard times or whatever your reason for being poor is, there are places and systems in place for you. And if there aren't, then I'd be shocked. And it might be just family, but it's a system. It's something for you to fall back on. What do we got? We have we get denied for everything we apply for almost, and it's because we don't qualify for some bullshit reason. And it's like, who would have thought to even include that in a reason for a disqualification? It's almost like it's aimed at you. And they don't understand that they can't keep bringing people like this up and just selling us out, and we're going to just buy into it and say, oh, Project 2025, we better hurry up and vote for Kamala. She'll save us. No, she's not. Because she ain't even scared of Project 2025, because she don't talk about it enough in detail. And no one talks about it in detail as far as how it's going to affect black people. And these two ladies are sitting there waiting for him to get to his point, and he's just bullshitting. Because it ain't happening. It ain't coming, folks. This little guy, oh my God. And they just get to you. Get these people.
Relief. Getting rid of all of the tools that have been put in place to be able to advance more equity. A lot has been done, and a lot of programs have been put in place to close the gaps on home ownership, to make sure that people have access to loans and resources to start businesses, women, people of color, and that will be dismantled. So just think about it.
Women, people of color. But the title of this segment is how Project 2025 is going to harm black people. That's what he's supposed to come on and tell us. And now he's all on women, and because it's a threat. It's a way for us to all just discard learning anything about Kamala Harris or questioning anything about her past, present, or future, and just vote for her just because she looks like us. And that's the saddest part, is that they really picked her. And if you're black and this offends you, I don't know what to tell you. Sorry, not sorry, but if she didn't look like us, she wouldn't be in that seat. And if you don't believe it, close your eyes and think real deeply. If she didn't look like she looks, and if she wasn't expected to bring in the black vote, which is significant, why would she be there? What other gift does she have that they need? She was Joe Biden's vice president, and that was to kind of boost him in that same area. They're going back to the well again, the old faithful black vote, that we need to be the unfaithful black vote, and we need to be open to listen to the other side. If we're going to participate in a duopoly, we can at least play the game properly. I mean, we got AIPAC, who is a foreign entity who has more access to our government than we do. Yeah, say that again to yourself real slow.
A billionaire president presiding over an administration that makes it hard for the little guy to be able even to start a small business, to be able to get a student loan, to get more education, turning this country backwards and turning us all backwards and taking away sort of the very things that make America great, this idea that we can actually achieve more, have more opportunity than the generation before us.
You said vote.
He sounds so desperate for Trump not to win and so afraid. And that's probably tied to a paycheck and not anything in his head as far as policies or any of that stuff, because he didn't say one thing and Kamala Harris and Joe Biden didn't do one thing to make us think any differently. They've had 3.5, I keep saying 3.5 years. They had 4 damn years to do, and while she's out here campaigning, they've made it even easier on Joe. He could be back at the White House signing all kind of stuff, but he isn't. He's at home taking naps, and she's out on the road trying to get elected on rhetoric. And anybody who falls for it, I feel sorry for him, because your vote is wasted. As wasted as mine will be when I vote for Cornel West if she doesn't come to the table and come up with some type of reparations or something for black people. The longer we delay this, I got folks who would like to wait until 2028 and get something going. Well, there's black people who I consider my allies and my supporters who say, it's been so long, and if we start giving up on it because of things that they're planning in our heads, it's an unfair fight. I know. The footing has never been equal. We've never had true negotiation on anything, and unfortunately, it's kind of the hand we were dealt. And anybody who can find a way to make it black people's fault is suffering from a little mild case of Stockholm syndrome, and actually a little more severe than mild, but I would moderate maybe. I wouldn't say to the point of, but some of the things that come out of their mouth, it's only in the protection of the oppressor, and you know where that comes from. That's Stockholm syndrome. It is, and I understand it's something that's been beaten and bred into us. And it's nothing that we can do to really defend against it, except hope that every opportunity we get to use whatever leverage they give us, that we take advantage and take the opportunity to take steps forward. They're going to be small in small increments, but right now, I think the people who are on our side are doing us a lot of harm with the reparations talk, as far as it being these trillions of dollars, because it just makes it so easy for some young Caucasian person in the United States to say trillions. They know what kind of debt this country is in, and they're thinking, wow. You go to concerts, you see black people on the drums, out in front singing. You go to a football game, they're out on the field. They got these big old contracts. So it's an illusion that we're not doing as bad as we're really doing. And maybe they should frequent some downtown sections of inner cities, and they'll see a different thing. But who wants to do that? And I just think it's a sad thing that a lot of people have we're beyond it. And if you take inventory of the gains that black people have made since the beginning of Jim Crow, and they say Jim Crow started somewhere around 1870. It's kind of weird because slavery ended, so they say at 1865. So that's 5 years that black people didn't have Jim Crow. Yeah, right. Believe me, the laws then, it was probably better when they started the Jim Crow, because the laws were at least kind of more clear for black people to know what not to do, so they could probably not get unalived. But if you aren't in a country where you had any kind of legal standing or came here as a free immigrant, being released from slavery into this country it's got to be a nightmare. And anybody who thinks that the people who did that to our ancestors are and we should just be okay with it, and they're okay guys, we talk about them in such terms that makes them heroes and revered, but then we look at them as slaveholders and oppressors, and it's offensive for you to hear that when they're your heroes, but there are oppressors, and that hasn't been reconciled so that we can talk about it in conversations and not arguments, and both have an understanding where both sides are satisfied, and we can start using words like freedom and equity in their true sense, and not a scenario and you put the word freedom over it and it doesn't match. It doesn't match. We are voters, not politicians. We don't have to lie for them. Even if you're wrong, as long as you're stating your case to the best, to the truthfulness of your ability, that's all. The politicians are the ones who lie intentionally. If you lie because you misstated a fact, that's not a lie. That's different. Even if you're misled, I get it. But what they're doing is to mislead, and that's just not tolerated. I can't tolerate it. Not tolerated with me at all.
Voting was really important. How are you going to make sure those people show up to vote?
Well, we are going to educate. The research tells us in so many ways that people need to hear from folks in their networks. Trusted networks are so key. And so one thing that we have been pioneering for years at Color of Change and with so many of our partners is really working with volunteers, tens of thousands of volunteers around the country that through tech platforms, we give them the tools to be able to reach out through phone.
Yeah, we give them the tools. We tell them where the black people live who don't vote, who was on the books years ago but ain't been out in a few elections, and we go find them and we try to talk to them about their ancestors dying for their right to vote, and they can't just sit home and let their, but we know you guys trying to get more votes for the Democrats without it really being for anything, without you going into these people's homes or knocking on their door or calling and bugging the shit out of them and telling them what they're going to get. Say, hey, you know what, you're going to get this in this elect. But if you don't say those kind of things, then you're just getting people to vote for you. And whatever mark this Kamala makes in history, it doesn't really affect me one way or another. The only thing she can do that will make me smile is negotiate with black people and support black people, since you're pretending to be a descendant of slaves and you're not. And with that, folks, let's get back to our program.
Phones, through doors, through text messaging, and we're able to contact irregular voters that don't show up in every election. One example is in Michigan alone, according to the Secretary of State.
Swing state.
In Michigan, there are over 1 million young people that did not vote in the last election who were eligible to vote.
And they better not go bother them, because they might go vote for Trump. It's a swing state. You might wake up 1 million Trump votes, because you automatically think some of these kids ain't voting, and because they are pissed off at Kamala for being in office and campaigning like she's out. In boxing, there can be a vacant belt. Two boxers fight and see who's going to be the champion. In politics, there cannot be. There's a president at all times, and we have one now, and we have a vice president, and they need to start acting like it and quit running away from that. They're incumbents.
So if we can just contact those folks and get percentages of those folks to turn out and vote, the ability to not just swing an election, but to make sure the election is swung by people who then now have more power to make the demands on the things that they...
Well, they should make the demands before they vote. Is that how it works? You go vote, and then you make the demands once the person that you voted for gets in office and don't do nothing for you. Nah, that don't sound right.
Care about. Elections are not about giving politicians jobs. They are about helping to make everyday people's lives better. So we always pair our work around elections with the conversations about what do you do after the election? What does the accountability look like? And how...
See, he's saying everything that we should be saying right now about the last election. She does not get a pass. This 4 years happened. And he's trying to say, yeah, you see, you take the, and then you, no. We're not going to do that. But this is not, no. She's in office. We need to be taking inventory and checking up things now, what she did these last 4 years, to see if she has earned our vote. Not what you're telling us to do. That's backwards. Pay attention closely, folks. We ain't going for that. They think we old, but we ain't stupid. Come on now.
How do we want to have a conversation about making the systems and the structures that should serve all of us actually serve all of us?
It's going to be a big year, that's for sure. Rashad Robinson, thank you so much for being here. President
Rashad Johnson, Robertson, that's off our stage. You came in here telling us that you had some information that you do not have. You clickbaited them poor girls. I mean, you had them believing that you was going to come in here and tell them how Project 2025 was going to affect black people. And they was about to be like, yeah, because we ain't read that 900 goddamn pages. And you did not either, Chad Matthews, or whatever she said your name was. I'm just disgusted to think that you're willing to go and try to sell out black people with falsehoods. You know that shit ain't true. You know it ain't. And anybody who says I'm willing to I'm willing to bring you on the show. I would love for somebody to come on the show so I can sit quietly and allow them to explain how Project 2025 is going to harm black people, specifically black people and nobody else. Because if it tears apart the medical system's been tearing us apart. You know what I mean? If it tears apart the judicial system and the prison complex that's been built up in this country on our backs and necks, so be it. You know what I'm saying? The things that could possibly go away might not be such a bad thing. I don't know. Well, anyway, let me tell you this, guys. We can't hate Trump because Kamala does. She has to tell us why we hate him. And we can't hate Kamala because Trump does. We have to know why we're hating her. Look into their policies. Don't listen to me. Listen to me. Look into their policies. I mean, don't listen to what I feel, because I'm going to insert a lot of my personal opinions here. I like like-minded people. I hope most of the people who sign up, join my community, is because we ain't like-minded. We can communicate. You can send me messages. We can talk. You can come on lives. We can have a relationship as a part of my community. I don't want people who are voting for Kamala Harris. I don't want people near me who are voting for Kamala Harris just because they're afraid of Donald Trump. That just ain't going to get it. It's not going to make any sense to anybody. And that's what we've been doing. 60 years, and here we are. They're still telling us just one more time. Just give it, come on. We just, and then at the end of 2027, going into 2028, it'll be the same thing. We know it ain't going nowhere. But they just stringing us along as they can, and they're not even smart enough to change the playbook. They keep doing the same old thing. We've been dealing with this for too long. We've been in slavery since they brought us over here on the boats. We have not been released. We've been allowed to leave the plantation and relocate, but we have not been allowed to do anything for ourselves without their approval. We have not been able to do anything for ourselves without asking them first. And we have not been able to negotiate for anything. And the things that we have gotten are things that they have decided that would be fit for us or that they think we need. But when we say we need something, we don't know what we need. They do. They got to think for us. They got to run our police departments. They got to run every part of our lives. That's why we are so reliant on government assistance, because they want us to be. So are a lot of other races in much huger numbers. But the amount of us that are on public assistance or require it, we shouldn't. We totally shouldn't. The amount of work and labor that has been donated to this country on the backs of our ancestors is enough to pay for our existence probably several hundreds, if not thousands of years into the future. That's work out in a plantation field picking cotton until someone else tells you to stop. You don't know when you get off work. You get off work when that part of the work is to that person's satisfaction, who says, all right, boys, we done enough today. We'll get you back out here in a couple of hours and get back on it. You guys go in and get some rest. 2 fucking hours and we got to come back out here? Nah, hell nah. So we still in slavery. They still have too much jurisdiction. They can't even leave us alone to police ourselves, to educate ourselves, to do a whole lot of things for ourselves. You know, we can do better, guys, and so can they. With that, like, share, comment, and subscribe. Black Popcorn. We'll see you on the next one.